Yo, 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 yo. All right, we live. Man, we're gonna give it like 10 seconds and then we're gonna start it up. Listen, just want to thank everybody who's been tuning into the show. We had some great numbers on the show on Tuesday. We had to catch up. Listen, I told you I was gonna get the guys on. We was gonna have some good conversations. So again, I got Mike Rudwich with me. I got Rams Bleezy, Christian Ramsey with me. We're gonna go through it just because it's a lot of new people seeing the show. So my name is Morris Hilton. Started the 60 for 60 just out of what I thought was a necessity. I was seeing some really talented football players playing football and just wasn't getting any love. A lot of people wasn't coming out to the games because they didn't know what was going on. So we started the show to talk about what happens during those 60 minutes of football for about 60 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So um, I played junior college football. I played at Iona Prep. I won titles over there. And then, I had a car accident, so I couldn't finish my college career. And then found my way into minor league football, and I haven't looked back since. Right now I'm on the Connecticut Falcons. We play in the IFA. So let me bring on my co-host, my guest. First, we're going to start with Mike Rudy. Rudy!
Yo.
What's up, man? Introduce yourself real quick.
Mike Rudowitz. I play O-line for the Falcons right now. Former owner of the Vipers. I initially started playing football, obviously, when I was young. Went to a small school in Connecticut. Ended up going to Central, Connecticut State University. Played there for a little bit. Kind of messed that up. From there, found my way to minor league football with the Connecticut Giants, and from the Connecticut Giants was able to go on to play arena football, get a couple of shots professionally, and then came back to minor or semi-pro football 3 years ago with the Bulls, and then the Vipers, and now with the Falcons. So played most of my semi-pro career with the Giants back in 2000 to like 2006, off and on, because kept having chances to go other places, and then would come back. And then when they folded, went to the Bearcats, and then went to from the Bearcats, retired, and then did a couple of other shots here and there with a couple of teams. Hartford, which no one really knows about, but it was a professional team. I ended up getting injury prone, and that ended my career, and then now I'm back.
Cool. Now let's bring on the third host. Y'all know the guy, the big Bleezy himself, Christian Ramsey.
What's going on, Kenny?
Good, Rams.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for having me on this show tonight. I really appreciate you, Morris. Shout out to Big Mike. Miss you, dog.
What's
going on, man?
Yo, introduce yourself, Chris, for all the people that don't know you.
Yes. My name is Christian Ramsey. I play running back, a little bit of slot receiver, outside on occasion. I've been playing football for a couple of years now, mainly in the semi-pro circuit. I got a little bit of a high school experience. First started playing football in 10th grade. Not too much experience there. Really fell in love with the sport after high school. Went to college, and when I went there, the team, they were already in season, so I didn't get an opportunity to try out or walk on or anything. So there was that in terms of collegiate sports. But came back home, started playing with the friends, and now I love this shit. I'm here for it all the way.
Listen, my two co-hosts are always gonna always be humble, but both of these dudes are certified dogs, man. I tell you. Like, I remember seeing tape of Ramsey like 4 or 5 years ago when I first got into semi-pro. And I'm like, yo, who is this dude cutting a fool, hitting the corner, hitting the edge, taking off on dudes? I'm like, yo, this dude is nasty. Finally got a chance to play with him. He's a dog, certified. And Mike made it to the highest level. Don't let him dumb it down for you. He'd be like, oh, I didn't make the team and all that, but shit, if you made it in the building, you made it.
He was on the Giants already.
If you made it in the building, you made it. So
I did. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's jump into it because we got a hell of a show. Listen, last week I brought up the idea of the Minor League Players Association, and it rocked some boots, man. Some dudes got real upset in some high places. And I basically put out a post, right? It was in response, and I laid out like my top 10 things of why I thought a players association was a beneficial thing. And number 8 was potentially pay the coaches and pay the players. So this episode is pay us, right? And my whole thing is, how does a players association even roll up into that, right? So we're gonna start out with the first topic of the day. We're just gonna chop it up. All right, guys. Let's check that out. Yeah, we're gonna chop it up. And basically, what we're talking about is, what does a players association do? So the major premise to a players association, right? The biggest premise, what it does really is it creates a collective bargaining agreement. And all that agreement does is it lays out from front to back what happens in a league, right? The thing with minor league football is that we have many, many leagues, right? So we have this big, huge ecosystem of teams and players and participants, from owners to commissioners. We're all segregated in a way, but we're all also together in a way, because you could play a team from freaking Louisiana if you want to, or you could play a team right in your backyard. You guys can split players and you can share jerseys and share helmets. There's really nothing to stop that from happening. It's just one big live ecosystem. So, how could a collective bargaining agreement basically help the whole thing come together? And I'll kind of spring the idea. If we as players come together and say, this is what we feel like we need in order to put out the best product possible every single week. These are the times of the year that we think are best to play. This is when we want to play. This is when we feel like it's safest to play. We now take the control into our hands. And if we all collectively as a whole agree to this, this is what the leagues now must abide by. And that's basically all the collective bargaining agreement is. All we're saying is, hey, we think this is what's best for us. Do you guys agree? And we come to the table back and forth until we can all find an agreement. So what do you guys think about the CBA?
Honestly, I think it's a good idea, but the hardest part about it is just getting a push and getting other people to actually believe in that players are going to do the right thing with this power. We can all say that we're going to scream, we want a players association, so on and so forth. But at that point in time, once the ball's in our court, how are we going to execute? How are we going to score? And I feel like with lack of confidence from coaches and owners in these leagues, that might not happen as smoothly as we may want it to. We might have to kind of be a little bit forceful in this, but as long as we get the message across that, hey, this is what we really want, as opposed to just making it for, pardon my language, shits and giggles, and not really executing or doing anything or making change, then, like I can see why they would be hesitant to be like, okay, let's do this, and actually let's start compensating our players so that we can, or so that they and us can start actually reaping the benefits of what semi-pro could actually be, or minor league, excuse me.
Thanks. What about you, Mike? What do you think about the CBA?
I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, let's be real. Owners already pay certain players, so it's not. I mean, let's be honest about it. Like, I saw some of the comments and all that stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that can't happen." Well, it already does happen. Some guys pay gas money. Some guys say no dues. Some guys just weekly pay a guy $150 to play on the team.
Hey, hold on 1 second. I don't mean to cut you off, but Adam Ingles, if you out there, anytime a player does not pay their dues and you continue to let them play on your team, you give them a jersey anyway, you just paid that player.
Yeah.
You didn't pay him in cash, you paid him in a cash equivalent, because that jersey and that time on that field was worth money, and you just gave it to him.
I mean, and that's been happening for years. I mean, when I played semi-pro or minor league, God, 20 years ago, that was happening. That was like me going on to the Connecticut Giants. I was 18, and I just got removed from Central because I ended up screwing up and playing tried out for the semi-pro team. They just happened to have a tryout like the week after I got kicked off the team for fighting and stuff. But I lost my scholarship, and I thought my whole football career was over at that point. So I ended up going to the Connecticut Giants, had a tryout. I was 18 years old and made a team. And next thing you know, I'm being told, hey, listen, sign over your eligibility for college because we're going to pay you. And I know I wasn't the only guy that got paid. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't I wasn't getting paid handsomely, but it was enough for an 18-year-old to say, fuck my eligibility.
Right.
You know? And don't worry, hey, Ramsey, don't worry. I swear way more than you.
No, you're good. You're good, man. You're good.
So when you talk about things like signing over eligibility and like the Stanford Giants, they obviously had it together. The CBA creates standards, right?
Mhm.
It creates policies that legally bind everyone who agrees to it. So like the main thing to the CBA is to try to get as many people together as possible to agree to a standard of life, right? A standard of play. Once they agree to the standard, now you're legally binded to operate under this mold, right? If you say, hey, we're gonna keep, our fields to a certain level, you have to do that. If you don't, you've broken the agreement. And there's all different ways to kind of penalize people for that. And that's all laid out in the CBA as well. How are you penalized? What fines do you have to abide by and what rules do you have to abide by? I think when you talk about college, that was something that was brought up. All the college athletes are basically going to have to throw away their eligibility. All the 501c3, companies that are operating as football teams, their 501c3s are no longer, valid. None of that is true,
Not
right?
anymore. No, not anymore. Not to cut you off, but you gotta remember, I played 20. I'm 41 now, so 20 years ago I was 21. I was playing semi-pro before I even turned 21. So, now you have the NIL deals.
Yep.
You have social media itself that generates money for people. If your Instagram or your Twitter account or your TikTok videos are high enough, you're getting paid. Now, if you're a really good football player and you can get those videos out, you can get money just from that. And
Yeah,
then
monetize them.
and then the team can take you just solely on that. Like, yo, we got this dude. Look at his social media. It blows up. Let's get this guy.
Right.
So I know that's kind of off topic a little bit of what you're talking about, but like, it's not the same. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago when I had to sign my eligibility. Like, shit, I'm wondering with the NIL deal if I could go back to college now. Like,
I think there's a cutoff date to that, but
yeah, there is. I know there is, but
definitely into that more. Like the NIL deal and how a players association could work cohesively with the NCAA and the NFL at the same time. Because if you think for 1 second that we're gonna have a minor league players association and it's not gonna be attached to the NFLPA and it's not gonna have any attachment to the NCAA, you're fooling yourself. We're going to have to cross those bounds. And at some point, we're going to have to work together. And that's all going to come into place. So we'll talk about that in more detail. Because I think with the NIL deals alone, like we could devote a whole 60 minutes to just talking about that all day long. You know what I'm saying? But we'll get back to that. One of the things that the CBA is really supposed to do, in theory, is it's supposed to protect the player's interest first. And through protecting the player's interest, you got to just think like, what do all players want to do? It's in the name, right? We want to play football. You know what I'm saying? Now, there's a lot that goes into playing football. We all understand this, like traveling the games, having equipment. You know what I'm saying? Solidifying a good field that you can play on legitimately. Not with the turf rolled up at the 50, and not with huge potholes. You know what I'm saying? And not landing in a dog doodle. You know what I'm saying? And not having trash everywhere. I'm saying just basic things that you say is basic, but they're not so basic. And if you know anything about the NFLPA and how the CBA came, it was basically NFL players way back in the 40s and 50s. They just wanted clean uniforms. And they banded together just to have their uniforms clean. We're kind of doing the same thing. Like, we just want to have some of the basic things that we need for football. Because if you think about it, a lot of the players that played in high school, they didn't have to buy their shoulder pads or helmets. You know what I'm saying? For the first time ever in their life, they have to purchase their own helmets and shoulder pads on top of their cleats. And some teams don't even provide pants, just uppers, just jerseys. So now they got to go out and buy pants and the pads to go in them and belts. All these costs for a 20-year-old guy who don't even have a steady income. You know what I'm saying? But still loves the game of football. And that 20-year-old guy might have some true talent. You know what I'm saying? True talent that can get somewhere. So how do you feel about a CBA potentially bringing that kind of player's interest as a uniform document, right? Something that's solidified, that's substantial, that they can hand over to leagues and say, this is in the best interest of the players. We need to do this. How do you think that's going to impact the game in the whole?
I'll let you go first, Ramsey.
I feel like it'd be extremely impactful. I feel like everybody's minor league football experience would be increased, like, or just it would increase 10 times than what it is now. You know, the fact that, you know, maybe teams would provide things such as, you know, uniform and, you know, decals, something that we don't necessarily have to pay for. It would make them feel like, okay, this is like a well-run organization, as opposed to just going up to a coach who's, you know, pulling stuff out of the back of his trunk, like, oh, you need this, you need that, you have to buy it. You know, it would just be very impactful. That's the most I can say, because it's one thing for players to kind of go out of their way and grab all their stuff, you know, and that's discipline. Will players do that if it's not, you know, if it's required, as opposed to it being there for them? They can just come there, get dressed, get ready, and move on. Not everybody that plays minor league is responsible. Not everybody's on top of their shit. Not everybody kind of takes initiative in handling their business. So, you know, not saying that the organization should, but it would help in a sense. You know, just speaking as a collective, people that already have their stuff in order, you know, it's not even a thought. Like guys like us, we don't have to think about that shit because we already have it together. We can just go to the game and play. We don't have to worry about grabbing this, that, and the third. Maybe the only thing that we might have to grab is tape, you know, unless you have a bunch in the house. So, but I feel like it would be very impactful and nothing but beneficial, especially to new people that are looking in. Because I feel like outside looking in, it's not looking too good, especially with all the fights. And that just kills everything.
So, Mike, I will say, tape is another one. Like, I know for the Connecticut Falcons, we don't have to purchase our own tape. Our medic is amazing. Shout out to Miss Tammy Bromell. She's
Shout out to Miss Tammy, right.
She doesn't just take care of us. She takes care of the other team's players. She's all over the field. She's watching your kids. If your kids is running around, she's doing it all. So shout out to her. But yeah, like for a long time, listen, I made good money. You know, I made north of $50,000 a year for a long time. And I wore the same pads that I wore from my first year in football, with one shoulder pad hanging off to the side and back straps taped on. And I just wore it because, like, pads are expensive, and I never had to purchase my own pads. So I had the old school mentality of just like, if these my pads, these my pads. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until last year I fell funny and dislocated my shoulder and played half a season with my shoulder just out of socket. And then I went to a doctor, and he was just like, well, you got two choices. You either stop playing for about 6 months or you play with the pain. And I was like, shit, maybe I should buy some better shoulder.
Good investment.
Yeah, so it's just something to really think about. But go ahead, Mike.
No, I mean, I think what Ramsey said kind of nailed it. You know, it's going to change. I think it will change everything. I mean, I think it would change not even just, you know, teams' way of having things done, but I think it would change the overall look of semi-pro minor league football. You know, it would. I mean, let's be really honest. Guys that don't play football, when you tell people, certain people, it's certain people, not everybody, but, you know, you tell some people like, oh, yeah, I play minor league football. They're like, aren't really? Like, you know, you guys still doing that? Like, aren't you done with that? And it's like they almost downgrade it because they don't have that passion that we do. And you know, you sound like that where you're like, yeah, no, I'm in this league and like we're for real, we're legitimate. You know, we're in this whole situation where what we're talking about, it legitimizes part of our lives is basically what I would say. You know, it would, not that we don't take it seriously, but the outside world might even start looking at it, and town support would become bigger. You know, I think, you know, it's my personal view. I think town support would look bigger because even when you go to some of these towns, and all your new semi-pro football team coming in, like Ramsey said, the first thing they're thinking of is, all right, there's going to be fights, you know, or they're going to look up YouTube and they're going to see certain games. And in certain games, there's been fights on the sidelines, or you can hear, you know, the audio, and all you hear is certain things being said left and right, and you know how certain people are going to treat that. So I think it would change the outlook of the overall product of minor league and semi-pro football.
Yeah, we lost Ramsey for a little bit. He'll probably be back in a second. But, you know, the last thing that I'm going to say about the whole CBA situation, I think it really is a necessity. And the thing that a collective bargaining agreement does is it gets all the owners on the same page, all the team owners. it gets all of the leagues on the same page, right? And that's the standardization that we're talking about. And then the very last thing that it does is it unifies the players, right? There's strength in cooperation. You know what I'm saying? I came up with the saying earlier. I wrote it down. I said 10 players is like a hand, 100 players is like a fist, 1,000 players is like a hammer, and 10,000 players is like a loaded gun. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If 10,000 of us get together and say we need equipment, somebody has to get a deal with Rydell or whatever so that we can purchase equipment at a discount. We're all going to buy it from the same place. So that's
Yeah.
10,000 people purchasing the same thing through the same link. They have to give you a discount. They have to work together. It's going to benefit us all. And that's really what a CBA does. A CBA really just creates a standard mode of operation, and it's absolutely necessary. You're going to hear a lot of pushback, a lot of backlash on that. You're going to hear a lot of people at the top who say, we don't want no collective bargaining agreement. It restricts you. It forces you to, abide by these rules. And what if you don't want to abide by those rules? And what if it's for the better of us all? It truly is. And I was watching this coaching tape the other day, and the coach was explaining how he had revitalized this old way of thinking about playing defense. And his words exactly was, a lot of kids think that they don't want structure until you provide them structure. And then they realize that that's the thing that they wanted the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So right now we think that, oh, we get to smoke weed at the games and we get to drink Hennessy in the parking lots and we get to do all these things. You can still do those things. You can do those things not in the parking lot where the game was played. You can drive around the corner to a parking lot at an Applebee's, hang out in the parking lot, or go to your local park and get together, or go to your boy's house that you play with. And you can do those same things because it's going to put money in your pocket. It's going to make the football better. It's going to bring fans it's going to get rid of all the distractions and all the fights and things like that. So,
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to hear this pushback, but it's necessary. We need this.
And you're going to get pushback, like you said. You're going to get pushback, and you've already seen it. And don't get me wrong, as being an owner from last year, like I get the pushback. Because a lot of these owners truly don't have the money. A lot of the owners, and I might get eaten up on this one, but a lot of the owners rely on that 250 or 150 or whatever the hell their due is on the players paying their part. So, it's going to be a lot for the ownership to say, hey, I can pay for all this and I can do all this. And I don't think some people realize too, when you're talking about getting paid as a player, we're not going to get paid millions. No one's getting paid millions or even thousands of dollars. It's going to be a minimal thing. You're still going to have a day job. I don't think anyone in semi-pro football is going to be able to quit their job and start playing semi-pro football. You're still going to have to work that 9 to 5. It's just now you get a little bit of luxury of having a side job. And not. It's fun. Listen, I got paid to play. I got paid to play, and it was great. I left arena football to get paid to go play minor league football. I was getting paid more minor than I was in arena.
Right.
Getting paid under the table. I'd have to pay taxes. It's like, shit, I'm out of here. I'm gonna come over here now.
Facts.
No, that was back in 08 or 07, but still, I don't think a lot of the owners and some of the commissioners understand, and maybe they do and they just don't want it. But yeah, I don't think we're talking about getting paid thousands of dollars.
And Marshall
Not at
Shambliss, he asked that question. He said, can I explain where the money's going to come from? We are going to get to that section. Trust me, we will. It's going to be a little later in the show. But basically, some of the money already exists, actually. It's already here. It's just being managed in ways that we can't track right now. Or might not even be managed in the best possible ways. Bailey Brewer said, as a whole, we need owners at the team level. We need commissioners at the league level. She might have left this out because it's implied, but we need players at the player level. Everyone has to come together, and they have to work for the same goal. And that's why the CBA is something I wanted to take some time to really talk about, because the CBA legally binds you to acting in such a manner that we've all agreed to do this. We all agreed to go right. So we're all going right.
Mhm.
There's no going left now. Once you agreed, we're going right. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
All right. So we're at the end of that convo.
Yep.
We're good on time now. So let's go to the next convo. All right, guys. We're still talking about the Players Association. All right. But, you know, try to get this up here. You know, that was the NFL's, collective bargaining agreement. This basically, without this document, you don't have an NFL, not the way that we know it today. You understand? So when you talk about how does the player association work, you got to kind of think about how does it fix the problem. That's really the bigger thing, because you can understand how it all works, but what does that all mean towards fixing anything? You know what I'm saying? And right now we've got a very serious issue with refs safety and refs not finishing games and refs
Changing the game.
altering the rules of the game, and refs getting the heck up out of there because, it's a hot summer day and they really don't give a damn and they got paid already. So let's just get it over with. And it's only the first quarter, but it goes past refs. We got a problem with players throwing punches, players saying words that are illegal. We got a problem with, owners of teams walking out on fields and starting problems. We got a lot of problems, right? A lot of them. I think the first thing that we can do to solve the problem is create some separation, right? And when I think about separation, I think about the levels of play. Right now, we got 3 different levels that we all understand, but we don't really understand. I'm gonna say that because when you say 3A and you say 2A and you say 1A, when you talk about teams, it's kind of understood. Like, all right, that team is a 2A team or that team is a 3A team. We kind of get that. It's about organization, structure, money, roster size, level of competition, level of play. But when you say 3A player, no one understands what a 3A player is. It's very hard to determine what a 3A player is because you got a lot of 3A players that probably shouldn't be in 3A, but they pay their dues, right? They pay their dues, so they're 3A players. I think one of the things that a players association can do is start to really separate the levels of play. And this is what I thought. This is just off the top of my head. We keep the same system we got, but 3A becomes a true minor league level of football, where the best of the best, the cream of the crop play. That's where the majority of the money is going to be. This is where the big name players are, your ex-NFL guys, your Division I guys, your guys who are just great minor league football players and they make a name for themselves. This is where they're all going to reside. They're going to be able to reap the rewards, the financial benefit the most, and so will the teams. These are the best teams, the ones that take buses to every game. These are the guys who can get on flights and make it down to Florida. You understand? These are the guys who can play in California and come back home and play a game the very next week. Then you got 2A, which is your developmental level. And I tried out for a developmental football league. It was a pro league. I made it, got drafted, and chose not to go. Why did I choose not to go? The football being played in that league was, if not worse, the same level that I was currently playing. Not only that, it was a semi-pro football league. I had to pay dues. I had to bring my own equipment. I had to shack up. I mean, it was in all intents and purposes, it was a semi-pro football league. 2A will become the developmental league. It will be the place where guys are young. Maybe there's money, maybe there's not, depending on what the NCAA eligibility is. It'll be the place where the teams who can't quite travel all the way across the country, who can't quite make it down to a game in Florida and then be back the next week to play a game. It'll be for the guys who aren't quite as devoted. We understand, right? That's the place where guys really go to develop. And also for teams who want to be 3A teams to develop, right? And then single A will be, yeah, let's just have some fun. You know what I'm saying? Let's crack a beer. at the local high school field, and let's go out and beat each other up for 60 minutes and then have fun and go home and talk a bunch of crap to each other over the phone. You understand? But I think by having a players association, we can make this a reality. How do you guys feel about that?
Right. Let me go. All right, I'll go.
I think Rams is traveling. He was at the gym, guys. So
no, no. I think I saw a comment that said, "How do you define the 3A?" So I got kind of
bring that back up.
I mean, I think so. With that being a question, that's why. I mean, I've had talks with you, and me and CT locker room are trying to have a combine. I think a combine is what they're doing. I mean, my thought process of the combine for the league and other leagues was, you go on these chats and you see everybody saying they're the best. Well, here's your chance to prove it. We'll do one-on-ones. We'll do the 40-yard dash, the 225, the three cone, the shuttle, all of them. We'll do everything out. And then you can separate who's got the best times. And I know that's not exactly, it doesn't translate to the game, but at this level, it actually might. You know what I mean? If you have a receiver running a 5.6, he's probably not going to be 3A.
Probably not.
and with that being said, you do the one-on-ones, you find out that way too. So I think the combine would be a good way to separate all that. And that's why me, CT locker room, are trying to work that out, get that done. I know Divine's doing one on the other side. So, and I'm trying to help him out with that one too.
Right.
So doing my best on both sides on that one.
What about you, Rams? Can you hear us? I think he's
honestly, I hear you guys. I'm trying to make out the best that I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
This is okay. I guess I'm at a very bad service every day. But I think honestly, like 3A. I mean, obviously everybody wants to play 3A. It's the best of the best, especially if you have that high competitive spirit. That's where everybody wants to, play when it comes to minor league. And like you said, the ex-NFL players, the D1 athletes, the D2 athletes, or guys that have just been playing minor league for so long that they feel like they're good enough to compete. That's where you want to go. Now, I mean, there should be maybe some type of, I feel like every player that says they play minor league or semi-pro, there should be some type of template where every coach or organization can take from and be like, okay, let's find out what type of player we have. Besides, the intangibles or who they are as an actual person. I mean, that maybe other tests and stuff can determine where they go from that point in time. But in terms of actually knowing the sport and trying to bring the best product to your organization as opposed to just taking anybody with a league fee, I feel like just everybody going about that would make this product better. And I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks. You might be that one guy that might not, be up to par with the rest of your friends that are, 3A athletes or, AAA athletes. But I mean, that's, I guess, a bullet that some might have to bite to make the product better. Mm-hmm. And, nothing wrong with that player that might not be up to that 3A speed going into a 2A or single A for development. That's perfect, actually.
Exactly. And, I think, look, go ahead, Mike.
No, I think the only blemish that we would have on that, and this would be something you would have to put into like maybe possibly a rule book or, or just let it happen, is you get somebody like myself who, I'm a decent football player, so I could play in the 3A, but I want to stay in the 1A because all my boys are there. You know what I mean? Like I want to just have fun, drink a beer and chill, but everyone knows that I'm going to dominate 1A. I think that would be where we would have the problem of what do you do with that? Like, do you have to force him to go up to 3A or let him just stay at 1A or 2A?
That's a damn fine question, Mike. And honestly, the Players Association is not a dictatorship. You know what I'm saying? It's not a league. Leagues can make those kinds of rules. Commissioners can make those kinds of rules. The Players Association asks questions. They ask the vast majority, the bigger group, what do you think should happen? And that group then comes back and says, well, we don't think that is fair that a AAA guy that just came off of Clemson's roster should be hanging out with a bunch of dudes that just fell off the bench you know what I'm saying, and decided they was going to go crack a beer with their brothers on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Or the vast majority of the group could say, hey, let him play if he wants to play. However, there's no double duty, right? You can't be a single A guy and then also be on a triple A team getting a salary. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now you're gonna have to pick what level you are in. And you can double duty in your level. You can play for all the teams you want in your level. I promise you that 3 or 4 teams are not gonna pay you a salary to play on 3 or 4 teams.
Right.
They're gonna want everything they can get out of you if they paying you a dollar. You know what I'm saying? So I think some of these questions that we have will be answered in its own just through business sense, right? As a team owner, if I'm gonna give you $500 a game, you're not freaking going to 1A. And the other thing too is I'm not gonna let you play 1A and potentially get hurt. And now I have to pay your insurance. And your insurance is gonna pay you, but you got hurt playing 1A when you should have been playing 3A. Like a lot of these things are gonna weed themselves out. But I think to get to Bailey Brewer's question that she was really having was, how do we define these players? I think somewhere in the CBA, there's gonna have to be some language that says that when you come in, you need to know where you want to be, right? I'm coming in and I'm saying I want to be 3A. Okay, now every team is going to have to abide by the rules of having a 3A player. And this is obviously for all the teams that define themselves as 3A teams, because we won't have every team a 3A team. And those 3A teams will have to say, listen, in order to even be a 3A player, you need to perform in the combine and be able to make our team, first of all. Then you're going to have to agree to these standards. You're probably going to have some kind of background, or you're going to have to clear some kind of background, right? Because at this point, you're an employee. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go through everything that an employee goes through. And then you're going to be interviewed. And if the team accepts you and they think that you are good for 3A, then you're 3A. And a lot of this is, I believe I'm 3A, but some of this is going to be, I think I'm 3A, but then we find out you're not. And it's just that simple. You can't play at this level, Go to 2A. Oh, you can't play at that level either. I'm sorry. You're going to have to go to single A and work on your skills, work on your talent.
Yeah, and I think it also comes down to knowledge. I mean, if you have an absolute mind for the game, and I mean, I'm not calling anybody out, but we all know there's guys that, we break out the huddle and that player doesn't even know the play. He's asking you, hey, what are we doing? And you're like, dude, you should know what we're doing. So I think you have that as well, where you could, guys, ability to maintain, knowledge of football and know the plays and all that stuff as well as their skill. So I think it goes hand in hand on that as well.
I mean, listen, what Darryl was saying is accurate. What Dave Patterson is saying is kind of funny but accurate. We're talking about the things that will make this level of the sport better than what it is. Darryl brings up a good point. You could have a great team owner. You could have a great team. You could have a great environment. You could be in your community. You could be doing everything right. It only takes really one player to screw it all up for you. One bad apple, just like anything. That's the point of the PA. The point of the Players Association is you have a field that you worked really hard to get. One bad player shows up and throws a punch, creates this big chaos. That player has to abide by those rules. He now serves a fine and a suspension that's not just enforced by his team, not just by his league, but by the Players Association. That player cannot go to any other league and play anywhere that abides by those rules. Your team is now protected by that CBA. Your team can now take the CBA and take all of the penalties and actions and go to that community, whether it's the mayor's office or it's the town or the county clerk, or if it's just the high school that you're playing at. And you can now say, this player violated his contract. This player is now serving a suspension. This does not represent us. It does not represent our league. And it doesn't represent the Players Association in any way. It is in bold print right here. No player is allowed to throw a punch, and such fine will be such. And it protects you. Now you don't lose your field. You know what I'm saying? Now you don't have repeat offenders because the guy throws one punch and he throws another punch and he's out for the season. If he throws another punch, he's out for
that's a nice insurance policy.
He throws another punch and he's indefinitely out of all minor league football sports. And it's going to be
Not
very
yet.
hard for you to find yourself on a team when 10,000 players and owners and coaches agree to this CBA. It's going to be very hard for you to screw up the bigger ecosystem for all of it.
Very true. At the end of the day, that is very possible, and I feel like it could be done. My whole thing is coaches and owners' integrity as well, because they'll sell themselves, or just they'll jump off of everything that they were standing on to accept a player with maybe a short fuse or whatever, just because they're really nice, and that happens. There's a lot of people out there, good people at heart, but sometimes they might have a screw loose, and because they're talented or because they know how to, you know, block very well and shit like that, it's coaches will sell their soul for that. So it's tough.
It
It's
is
tough
tough.
for that to be really. It's tough for it to be policed when people will just sweep it under the rug anyway. Especially these authority figures in semi-pro, who are relying on to apply pressure and kind of just keep their foot on people's necks when it comes to things like this.
I mean, Daryl and Dave Patterson, they both bring up good points. Money, right? And I think that's where we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the point that money does a lot. And I said it last week. I said money's the root of all evil, but it's also the root of all greatness as well. Every great thing was created with the idea of improving something, and it was always sold. It's always sold for a profit. Nothing great in the world came for free. And when you think about money and the people with the money, the people who have the power to make this happen, they don't want to be involved in our current ecosystem. Our current ecosystem has no accountability, it has no credibility, it has no integrity, it has no standards. Right now, it's the wild, wild west of football. And no one with any real good money wants to get into our current ecosystem. However, we are watching and witnessing ecosystems pop up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
There are semi-pro football players right now playing football in Mexico, making hundreds of thousands of dollars to play in front of crowds who know nothing about American football. Nothing. But the ecosystem is better. And they built it from the ground up the right way after watching the USFL struggle, after watching the XFL fail and come back, after watching the NFL. They built it up the right way. There are people right now, semi-pro players, in Ukraine and in Hungary and in Germany and in China,
In Iceland
Iceland,
and China especially.
Britain, playing American football, American rules, and being paid in American dollars. More money than they ever made when they was here, with the same crowds that we have, because the people with the money want to be a part of those ecosystems. And what we're talking about right now is, can we really develop an ecosystem? We have the ground floor already. We have the players, we have the teams, we have the leagues. Can we now bring it all and make something out of it? And I think a players association might be the answer. Now, again, I'm just thinking, and this is why we're talking about it, right? This is why we're putting it out there. It's just a
Yeah.
thought. But I think that could be the start to the answer. And how is that the start to the answer? Uh, uh, NFLPA, right? A players association brings integrity to the game. It standardizes football. So I'm just going to put out these points real quick.
Good.
A players association can standardize the football we use. If you play football in minor leagues or semi-pro, you understand how big of a deal that is. It can standardize the football we use, the quality of the fields, the quality of our practice facilities. It can make sure that we all play on the same rules. It can make sure that we all have the same refs that come from the same background every single time, that make the same calls the same way every single time, that run the same game clock the same way every single time. The leagues will have discipline, so the league commissioners will be on the same page, and a lot of the league's rules will be similar. They don't all have to be the same, but there will be some basic rules that will need to be the same that all leagues will abide by. And that's pretty much agreed upon right now, but there's no formal way to police that. So if any league decided to step out of bounds, they could. And in certain areas, there's only one league that exists, maybe two. And if both leagues decide to step way out of bounds on something, there's no one to stop that from happening. We can have open and closed dates on football programs. So practice dates, roster dates, other dates like when teams can get together, dates like when teams can recruit. All of these things are basically antitrust, right? Sorry about that, guys. All these things are antitrust. All these things keep the game fair, right? Um, Team policies at the team level. You know, when you sign to a team and they give you the handbook and they say, "Hey, this is our team rules." You know, read through it, and it's 17 pages of mumbo jumbo. It's just something that they copy and pasted. Well,
They got
it would be true team policies broken down from the Players Association, and that would carry over from league to league. So it doesn't matter if you move from Connecticut to Florida, you're going to be familiar with the system. And the last thing I just want to touch on is just rosters, but on a granular scale. When we talk about rosters, we talk about like antitrust qualities, things like 15 of the best New York players, 15 of the best Connecticut players all go to Marlboro because the Shamrocks are the team to play for. You know what I'm saying? Now, when there's 17 teams between New York, Connecticut, and Marlboro, that shouldn't be happening unless they're 3A players, right? But if you got all your 3A players going to a 3A team in Marlboro, but you got 3 teams that are 3A in between there, the Players Association can do something to ring that in. It's not going to end that at all because that's also not fair. But it lays out these rules, these guidelines for how we can keep the integrity of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's how we can keep some fairness because one of the problems we do have in semi-pro is that some of these teams are failing simply because they can't get any talent. They simply can't get any talent because the big bad wolf is taking all the talent. It's not even giving them a chance to get going. This will tame that in some ways. And this is one of those fine lines that we play on when we talk about some of these rules where some people are going to agree and some people are going to hate this shit. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah.
But then when you talk about things like contracts where players are signing these contracts and I really don't want to play on this team. It's a bit of a trip. All my teammates left. They went to another team. Can I go to the other team? No, unless somebody buys you out. That's not very fair. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, it's not fair for a team to accept a player onto their roster and, do things for a player like go out of their way to pick them up, buy them Gatorades, get them some football equipment, get them a jersey on the promise that they're going to pay their player dues. And then that person just picks up and takes off. You know what I'm saying? And goes to another team and that other team accepts them because sometimes they leave the league in order to get away from the contract. You know what I'm saying? So contracts, when you think about things like stats, Mike, you played for several minor league teams. You played for several semi-pro teams. There are fucking no stats on you. Nobody can look you up and see how great you was or not great you was. Nobody can look you up and say, hey, you know what? This guy looks like an NFL quality player. And he said, he has some tape. Let's go look at his stats and see. You can't find that right now.
I mean, even if I found the tape, yeah, it ain't gonna be clear. It's all grainy.
The NFLPA has a system for that. They worked it out with the NFL, and that's where we're getting all of these next gen stats from. That's all from the NFLPA. A minor league players association system can also kind of require and also help to making sure that happens. You could have statisticians who volunteer from the minor league, players association. That could be a system where you find volunteers for your status work, And then the last,
not to interrupt, when it comes to recording stats, honestly, I feel like that should fall on maybe another coaching. That should be one of the coach's responsibility. If not a coach's responsibility, it should be a player that's not playing, somebody that is just obviously a supporter for the team. But when it comes to somebody that's just supporting the team, or maybe even a player that's hurt or a coach, there's no consistency. You'll see in the beginning of the season when everybody's excited and stuff like that, oh yeah, we'll record stats, but a losing organization maybe 3/4 down their season when they're like, all right, we're not making the playoffs and we're just going to finish, they stop. And that's when the inconsistency starts. So it's very, like you said, we definitely need to have somebody maybe assigned to start taking stats, or maybe that people that say that, they really care and love these organizations, they just really need to show out and start proving their worth by doing that. All these little things that are important or that can lead up to something great is getting swept under the rug and forgotten about because of how successful or unsuccessful one season might be going. So it's tough.
Facts. I mean, the last thing I was going to talk about is just ranking. And when you talk about ranking teams, and you talk about national championships, you talk about ranking players, you talk about Hall of Fame, you know what I'm saying? And honoring guys, having a standardized system will allow for that to happen, right? And I think one of the big points that you just made, Rams, if you could take a silver lining from it, is just that it takes an effort from everybody. But if we all have the same system that we're working from and we can all get comfortable with the same system, how hard is it to get the stats done? You know what I'm saying? If we're all working on the same system, how hard is it for those stats to then be uploaded into this big depository and then ranked if it's all in the same system? It gets
No, you're
very
right, and it's not hard. It's just initiative. But you're right.
I think too, it has to come down to, you know, you know how it goes. You know, one person will do the stats, and somebody will be like, "That's not how many tackles I had. I had 7 tackles, not."
They don't lie.
So,
Right. Film
and,
doesn't lie. That's why we need to have film. But do we have people that are going to be cameramen and actually take the appropriate film? Like, it's tough.
you know, and I think the other thing too is like Ramsey, you kind of touched on it, but like there has to be something too to stop players from leaving when their season is done.
Right.
You don't see college guys, you don't see NFL, and I know some guys are going to be like, well, this isn't the NFL, this is in college, but it's like, you know, hey, listen, if we're gonna be playing football and your team is 0-7 and you know you're not going to make the playoffs, like you're still part of that team. Go play.
Right.
You know, don't just end your season and say, hey guys, listen, it was fun, and then go to a different team next year. You know, I know that happens a lot too. You know, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed on semi-pro and minor league football as well. But that's a whole another conversation for another day.
Well, I think when you go back to the whole idea of really separating the levels of play, the top tier teams, I don't care how bad of a season they're having, they know they're good. So they're not going to quit. You know what I'm saying? Even when it gets late in the season, they got a lot of pride. The 2A teams as well. I think what you see is you see a lot of these programs that are on the cusp and their players are on the cusp and they're inside of a league that they really probably shouldn't be inside of. And when they get the crap kicked out of them 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row, they're like, you know what? I'm kind of banged up and I paid you to play here. So I'm gonna go home and go back to work. You know what I'm saying? And if we can start to separate those levels out, what you'll see is a lot better football. That's number one. You're gonna see a lot better football being played. And number two, you're gonna kind of get rid of that problem where teams drop out because a single A team is not gonna beat up on a single A team too damn bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those teams are gonna want to show out every week. They're gonna want to play that team next week because it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun, and I'm playing at my level. You see the teams drop out when they're not playing at their level. And they getting the crap kicked out of them every week, and it starts to get too expensive, and guys start to get injured. So I think a lot of these problems, and I'm glad that you brought it up because the more that guys talk and the more that we talk about these problems, the more you start to see how simple things like creating a system starts to eliminate a lot of the problems that we have, but it's sticking to the system.
Yeah.
It's being able to have
Consistency.
a place that you can enforce. You know what I'm saying? And that's why a CBA is so important.
I mean,
collective bargaining agreement.
and I'm reading some of the comments, and some of these guys are, I mean, I don't know if you read some of them, but they're accurate on what they're saying. You know, there's some stuff that's actually accurate, and you know, I think things can be changed on certain aspects of what they're saying, but it has to be, like you said, it's got to be a collective. You know, everybody's going to have to want it. You got to be kidding me.
I mean, that's kind of the point of talking about this, though, right? It's
No,
putting it out there, and you know, for the people that are paying attention right now, you know, we putting it out there so that we can talk about this and we could really get to the bottom of how can this happen and what is it really going to take. You know what I'm saying? And we're getting there. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get to that conversation, the whole ecosystem as a whole conversation. We get.
I think also, and I touched on this last week, and I'm going to say it again, right? But there's also there's too many teams.
Yes.
You know, like there's just so many teams now. Every year there's 5, 6 new teams coming out because dudes leave one team and say, let's start. And I'm guilty of it. I did that with the Bulls. I left the Bulls and started. You know, like, I did it myself. I left the Bulls And I thought, hey, I'm hanging out with Wade, I'm hanging out with Lester. And once my season ended, I'm like, you know what? I could probably start my own team. And, I ended up going with who I went with. It panned out for a year, for me. I hope the Vipers can stay together and do what they got to do. But, it's
I wish them the best, man.
rounds now for two years. There's been how many teams now are new, and
I think it's like 10 teams alone this spring alone.
and
Don't get to the fall.
And I mean, it's just there's got to be, and I'm not a commissioner, and I'm not about to start my own league, so I don't want to say too much, but there's got to be something that has to get a waiting period or something. Like I don't know. It's so easy for everybody to say, like right now, us three right now can start a team, and half our friends are going to come.
Us three right now can start a league.
but you know what I'm saying? Like us three right now,
that'd be dope.
And half our friends are all going to come play for that team.
Half our friends and half the teams.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it just there's got to be some form of fashion of stopping that as well. And I don't want to stop it, but there's a way there's got to be a process.
Again, that's what the CBA does. It lines out a process that we all can agree on. And we're all 100% not going to agree on something, but truly in the form of a democracy. Like, what does the vast majority think is the most beneficial? All right, this is the new way of operating. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't like it, you don't got to be a part of it. That's the great thing. The great thing is that everybody doesn't have to agree to the CBA. You know what I'm saying? You can still have these renegade semi-pro leagues that operate under their own. And if everybody wants to be in them, everybody wants to be in them. But I very much doubt that that's what's going to happen, because there's no substitute for doing things the right way. Yeah. And when you get the majority of people doing things the right way, you're not going to want to go play in that shotgun league. You're going to want to go play in a league that everything is operating the right way, where there's film, where there's tape, where you can buy your jerseys for cheaper because everybody's getting them from the same three places. You can get pads for cheap because everybody's getting them from the same three places. There's media. Everything's being done the right way. It's going to be hard for a shotgun league to compete with the big bad monster. Let's be honest what we're talking about here. We're talking about commercializing football at our level. That's what we're talking about here. And if you're pushing back on commercializing football at this level, who the hell are you? Because you love football because it's commercialized. You watch the NFL because it's commercialized. You watch the NCAA because it's commercialized. How many people have actually been to an NFL game but are NFL fans? There's only a few people in a room that'll put their hands up that said they actually bought tickets themselves. They paid for the tickets and drove themselves to an NFL game and went and found a seat and sat down and bought a beer and bought popcorn and watched the game and went home and said, damn, that was a great experience. Yep. But there are hundreds of millions of fans. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
If you love the commercialization of football, how can you not love it at this level?
True.
That's what we're talking about. And how do you commercialize it? Collective bargaining agreement. But what are we bargaining over? We're bargaining over every single comment that has gone through since we started this live. We're bargaining over what the players should be paid. We're bargaining over the different levels of football. We're bargaining over how owners should operate as owners, how teams should operate as teams, how leagues should operate as leagues, how players should operate as players, how we market ourselves to fans, how we merchandise ourselves. We come together to agree on purchasing our supplies from certain suppliers in different regions so that we can get discounts collectively. We work on agreeing on a certain level of quality of the field so that we can minimize injuries, or quality of equipment so that we can minimize injuries, quality of insurance so that players that do get hurt can go back to work. We're not worried about income. Like, we're bargaining on a lot of things with each other. We're working together. That's the bargain. And the last thing I want to talk about before we go to the next topic, because we are a little over time, is when we talk about how does a players association fix the problem, we can go on about the ins and outs of football literally all day. I plan on talking about this for 3 or 4 episodes, right? This is going to be a recurring conversation. I'm not going to do it week to week. We'll take a week off from this and come back to it. But when you talk about paying the players, the whole genesis of this episode, when I said pay us, and they was like, hell no, how? Where is it going to come from? Marketing and licensing. Go to Google, type in NFLPA Inc. Google it. All of the different things that you can do to create a brand, it's like endless. You know what I'm saying? And it's not all going to work, and it's going to take time. I had a conversation with David Patterson earlier, and he said, be candid with me. And I told him candidly, I'm not going to see a paycheck in my career. We're 10 years removed from any player getting an official contract under any kind of agreement. 10 years minimum. And that's if we start working on it tomorrow. The truth is, the real power in players getting finances, getting funding, is going to be through marketing themselves, branding themselves. We've got to commercialize the player, because commercializing the player is what's going to be the engine to commercializing the team. And once you commercialize the team, that's the engine to commercializing the league. But it starts at the player.
It does, it starts with the players, to be honest with you. But we have to, if we really wish to go about it this way, then we have to weed out the hotheads, because it's going to be hard to market and commercialize when when it's something different every week. It's going to be hard to attract those big crowds and those people that might be able to be financial boosters for whatever team and organization when they're afraid, or afraid of risking their lives when coming to a game, or feel like they can't bring their children or their wives to a game even though they might like the sport. So it really does. Everything that you're saying is absolutely correct, but it's just the players have to want this just as bad, and by wanting it just as bad, they have to check their temperature before they even leave their house, or they have to at least have talk with themselves, or have somebody on the team, kind of like a pullback coach, just like in college, the get back coach that pull you by the belt. Hey, get off the field, you're talking too much, or whatever the case may be. We need something like that for a player as well, and we can be players and do that ourselves, but it's unfortunate. A lot of people need to police themselves more.
Well,
and once we do that, once that happens, everything can fall in line so much easier.
That's the thing. I mean, the Players Association is supposed to look out for the benefit of the players and the health of the players. Mental health is a real thing. We've had players come out recently. There's been so many players come out and talk about their mental health. What was it, Julian Edelman, that came out and said that he was struggling for a long time during the Super Bowl runs? And
that Edelman came out during that. Dak Prescott came out about his mom and his brother. His brother killed himself. His mom died of cancer. He struggled with that. There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, when it comes down to it, too, remember, we're banging our heads left and right, too. And we're all a little nuts to begin with.
So you do it, right?
I mean, but we are. Really, come down to it, like, at any level that you play football, you got to have a little bit of screw loose, because who really wants to run into another human being at full speed all the time? But that's the thing. Like, if you ask anyone who knows me, they think I'm crazy, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's why we get along. On this forum, and everybody, we all are on this forum and all that, because all of us are we all have our little screws loose on this court. But the mental health thing, a lot of guys, even just on the ECFL forums last year and the year before, there's a lot of guys coming out saying, hey, I'm not doing well. And a lot of people lost friends, and it affected them in negative ways. And I mean, losing a friend is going to always affect you in a negative way, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But men were more receptive to reaching out and saying, hey, I'm not doing good.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we can have those Brandon Marshalls and the Players Association that, they represent their team and they're that guy. We could have, as a Players Association, we could have people come in, what I'm saying? We can have volunteer psychologists come in and just sit down and have a conversation with guys. And
look, Kevin had what? He had the Autism and Mental Health Awareness charity event. Last year, he had the mental health charity event at where the Vipers hold their practice. I mean, he's doing things all the time for that, and I think what needs to happen, it's been resounding in the chats, is when it comes right down to it, it's going to have to be players are going to have to take this serious, and I saw one comment. It said the guy's got to put the blunts down and just come to the game 20 minutes prior. I mean, I'll be honest. When I played for the Connecticut Giants, like I've told you many times, all of us, we had guys coming right out of college. We had guys that had just retired from the NFL, CFL, mixed in with guys like myself who were, all-star, all-state football players that screwed up in college or didn't go to college because of family situations. But the one thing that we all did is we kept each other in check. Like no one was bigger than the team. There was no one on that team that was ego driven that I can even remember. We all wanted to win. We all had one goal, and that was to put Connecticut on the map. I mean, that was our biggest drive, was putting Connecticut on the map. I mean, our biggest thing, and Ramsey, I know you don't want to hear this, but our biggest thing when we played for Connecticut was going to New York and beating the shit out of the New York players. New York guys always thought because we were the small state, we were shit.
I'm from New York too.
So I represent Connecticut right now, so I don't want to hear it. But even when we went,
heard that
in Florida, like it was fun for me to go down to Virginia and Baltimore and all these places and beat these dudes up, knowing that we're just from little old Connecticut. You know what I mean? Like, so that was fun. But like my whole point of the whole conversation that I just got into was, it's going to come down to the players just taking this serious. It's going to come down to players being like, wanting to have one goal and one frame of mind. Yeah, it's fun to go smoke and get drunk and all that stuff, but do that shit after the game with your boys. When it's over.
Exactly.
Look at the comment, Mike.
Right, because look at it, and this goes back to policing ourselves, because you never know who's watching the game. You don't know if the person that actually lent us this field or rented the field for us is there. That you don't know if their kids could be around. You don't know, like, if somebody special is going to their field that day for whatever purposes. So it's a very,
and listen,
people just have to be more aware.
And we all know too, like, police your fan base. If you know you have a crazy cousin, like, just tell him not to come. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I appreciate you. I love you for wanting to support me, but don't come to this game, because last time you came, you caused issues for me. I have that. I have my entire family is nuts, and I tell them all the time. As much as I want them to come to my game, there were two. Two of them came to 2 games last year, and they got jumpity, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, stop! Like, be quiet! Like, just stay in the stands and just watch the game." Like, so it's like we got to police ourselves, and we got to police our own fan base, and when it comes right down to it, it's never going to work unless we ourselves take it serious. Owners and all that stuff will have to. Ownership, commissioners will never look at us seriously until we look at ourselves seriously.
And that's my thing. Like, you got guys like the 3 of us right here. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot more of us. But the 3 of us right here spend hours and hours in the gym. Ramsey's on his way home right now from the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a workout before this. I put this whole thing together, and I asked you guys to join me because I understand that you guys are like-minded and you're just as serious. But you look at the Den, that's an entire league full of serious football players right now. You know what I'm saying? There are some guys in there that probably don't belong there, just like any league right now. But
Definitely that.
when you think about this whole conversation right now, the truth is we're trying to put together a new ecosystem, one that actually makes sense, one that works for everyone, and one that abides by basically a fucking pamphlet that lays it out for you. It says, hey, the groundwork is done. What are you? Where do you belong? We can help you figure that out. And once we figure that out, here's everything that you need in order to be a team. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, I agree completely. I feel like somebody just needs to create the perfect template, have a few successful years behind it, and then go from there. And then have everybody else, bite the flow or bite the swag, for lack of a better term, like how all the young guys are saying it now. So I feel like that needs to happen.
And we were talking about, so let's get back on topic real quick. We were talking about marketing and licensing, right? And what all that the NFL does. When you think about all the things that the NFL does to not only market Well, it's not really the NFL. That's the thing we got to really separate. The NFL itself as an entity markets the Shield. It markets the Shield and it markets its teams because it owns the Shield and it owns its teams.
And not only that, man. No, like I could tell you this firsthand, and I mean it's common knowledge. The NFL is going to protect that Shield way before they're going to protect anything else.
All day. All day. So
Players come and go. That shield is forever.
Exactly.
the commercialization, I'm glad you said that. Let me stop for a second. So the current executive of the NFLPA, he said what players need to understand why it's important to have a players association is that there's a prism. There's only two prisms, and all players fall in between them. You have but so much time that you play, whether it be to injury, father time itself, your skills diminish, or whatever. And then you have the fact that 100% of athletes will be injured at some point.
Mhm.
So you have but so much time to play, and you have injuries. And every single player falls in between those bounds. Making the most of what's in between these bounds is the job of the Players Association. It's that simple. So when you think about marketing and licensing and the commercialization of athletes, how can we make the most money for the athlete? Whether it's the team paying them or a brand paying them or the league is paying them or it's some kind of residual income, how can we do the most? How can we make sure the athlete has money during injuries? How can we make sure the athlete has a retirement set up in case they can no longer work after playing football? How can we limit CTE? How can we limit concussions? How can we limit long-term damage to nerves and limbs? All of these things happen at the player association level, right? And the marketing part is done in so many ways. I just want to talk about some of these. Like, they do event coordination where, they put together dinners, and it's these charity dinners where they invite these, you know, freaking CEOs of all these companies, and it's a ball, and they come with their wives, and they come with, their mistresses, and they wear these gowns, and they come for the ballroom dance, and they drop $10,000, $15,000 on the table, and they say thanks. You know what I'm saying? And that money rolls back in. Why is it that baseball, leagues can do that with golf? They can put together these big golf tournaments. Shoot, I race go-karts, and one of my go-karts leagues, they do a big golf tourney, and they raise $250,000 every year from golf. But we can't do that in football? Are you crazy? We all work for somebody, all of us. How hard is it to ask the boss if he wants to go play golf? They're always going to say yes. They love golf. You know what I'm saying? Like, they put on these events, these dinners, and all these things. They do games, and it was cool to think about it. Like, the NFL does a college all-star game. What if we did a college all-star game? What if we did a high school all-star game? What if we did a youth all-star game? What if all these leagues that we have in our areas put on a youth showcase? What if we did showcases? What if we asked the NFLPA if they would send out some of their rookies, and do a signing and autograph and all that, and we compete against them? We send out our best athletes from minor league and see just how good we actually are. You know what I'm saying?
We'll have,
They
a lot,
do,
we'll have a lot of egos on that one.
I mean, you'll have a ton of egos, but you know what it'll do? It'll get a lot of people interested because a lot of fans are gonna want to see.
I said you're gonna have a lot of hurt egos after that one.
You're gonna have a lot of hurt egos on both sides because there's some damn good athletes in minor league football.
There is, man. I'm not saying there's not. I'm not saying there. It just depends on the rookie.
Listen, in my opinion, if you even come close, these pro athletes, like, that's a pat on your back because you're an everyday guy,
Yeah.
everyday guy. But then you got all these challenges. So you got the challenges: NFL versus minors, minors versus arena, minors versus CFL versus overseas. There's so many different things we can do, and all this stuff can raise money. Charity work, community outreach,
I was gonna say the outreach.
helping out with Toys for Tots, helping out with Make a Wish, helping out with all these different, and then at the end of the day, the Players Association will have, officials who that's their job is developing the brands of players and teams. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do on a week in, week out basis. And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a ton of work. If one or two players in every league just spent an hour a day getting on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, and just promoting different athletes, promoting different teams, you'll be surprised how quickly a buzz grows, you know? And some of this stuff is easy to find. You can figure out how to do this on YouTube. You can figure out how to do this on Google. It doesn't take much legwork to get this done. You know what I'm saying? And if you're gonna give the guy $20 a week to spend an hour out of his time, I'm guessing anybody would be happy to get, free dinner, once a week to spend an hour promoting a player or a team. It doesn't take much to build a buzz. And my main focal point, I always point back to it. There is a full league in Mexico playing American football where semi-pro players are making hundreds of thousands of dollars playing football. It can be done in America. It definitely can. We just got to do it the right way. So I just want to quickly have everybody take a quick look at this. This is something that we can do. This was put together by the NFLPA. It was put together by a marketing team that was paid by the NFLPA. All it is an infographic that talks about, the fans. What makes a person a fan? It breaks them down male, female. It breaks them down by their age. It breaks down how they became an NFL fan. What do they like? What made them want to be a fan of a particular team? How do they watch football? How much money do they spend? All of this happens if we have people who are dedicated to doing this. We got people who go to the games and survey. They ask, "Hey, what made you come out today?" Quick 5-question survey. What made you come out today? How did you feel about the ticket prices? Are you a fan of any particular player? Are you family, friend, blah, blah, blah. We could slowly put together information. And once we put together information, now we know how to market. Once we know how to market, we can start to make all of this conversation that we're doing right now about where's the money coming from. We can make all that a reality by doing simple stuff like this. Just figuring out where our fans are coming from, figuring out why people are not. We could go to a local bar and ask them, do you know that there's a football team in your town that plays adult football? And 95% of them are going to say no.
100%.
And then you can say, well, why don't you go to the football games? And they say, I don't know about it. Well, if you did go to the football games, what would you want? What would you expect? And then once we get all this information, now we can match to our fans. Once you know what your fans want, once you know what your audience wants, that's where the money comes from. You know what I'm saying? And this is what an NFL or MLFPA, sorry, all these letters. This is what a minor league football players association can start to do. This is one branch of a players association, but this is a part of how we make this all a reality. Now let's talk about the ecosystem. We're going to keep this short because we're way over time now, but it's a lot to talk about, right? It's a really it hits home, this conversation. It really does in many different ways. But the ecosystem and being disruptors of the ecosystem, right? So I shared this with the other 2 cast members earlier, and I basically was like, the NFL really doesn't care about change. You know what I'm saying? But they will put out these graphics that say inspire change. But what about Colin Kaepernick when he was trying to inspire change? And what about Michael Vick when he was trying to inspire change? And what about all the players who said, you're not paying my position enough for what we're doing, and I'm not going to come back to camp until you pay me a fair wage? What about those guys who tried to inspire change, right? I was watching this story, and they said the first executive of the NFLPA, he took the role as president of the NFLPA, and the very next day he was out of a job. So the NFL is not really about inspiring change, but they are about selling merchandise. So they put out the inspired change, and a few minutes later they put out the inspired change hoodie. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Colin Kaepernick still doesn't have a job, and he's proven time and time again that he's good enough to at least be on the bench right now, waiting to back somebody up. So my thing is disrupt the ecosystem. Like, stop giving things away for free. Damari Smith, he's the current executive of the NFLPA. That was his words. He said, My thing to all the NFL players and all the athletes who play football is stop giving away things for free. When you go on social media with your jersey and you put your jersey up with your boy and you put up, oh, I love the MLF so much. I love playing. That's free attention and free media that you're giving away. Giving out all these shout outs, playing in games for free. Your time is not free. None of it is free. So stop giving it out for free. I'm not here to say disrupt the system and bankrupt all the teams. They're already bankrupt. If you anywhere close to the guy who owns your minor league football team, then you know that motherfucker is stressed out right now. Money is at the top of his mind. He is stressed. He's trying to figure it out. He's already doing as much as he can. I'm not saying bankrupt those guys. What I'm saying is we need to change our mindset as players because we also have a responsibility and a duty to keep the lights on as players. You know what I'm saying? Just like the teams don't survive without us, we don't survive without the teams. It truly is an ecosystem. And right now, we need to disrupt our current ecosystem. The way that it is not working and it's getting worse. So I'm gonna open it up with this. Like a comment that was put out was, and Mike, this is kind of directed to you and a lot of the people that's in the comment section right now. Owners feel like you all should feel lucky and thankful that we gave you the opportunity.
Wait, you want me to answer that? I didn't feel
on to that.
I mean, last year I didn't feel that way when I was an owner. I mean, last year when I was an owner, granted, I had 3 other people with me. Dude, every day I woke up and wished I didn't do it. Like, and I'm sure there's guys out here that feel the same way at times. Like, the reason I did it and what transpired were 2 different things. You know what I mean? Like, and there's going to be owners that had different experiences than I did. I also worked with different people. You know, I was a team of 4 owners, which is extremely hard because you got 4 minds going against each other 24/7. And you 2 know the other guys, so you know what I went through.
Right.
So, you know, for me being the owner, I never felt like, you know, you guys should have been lucky to play on my team. I was happy you guys came to my team. You know, all I wanted from you guys was the dues. After that, I felt like just be part of the team, be a player, make this team go. Let's be successful. But that was my vision for that team. That wasn't the same vision of the other guys. You know, and that's across the board. I'm sure you guys that are, you know, owners on other teams that are in it to, you know, they're going to high dues and pay very little for that team. You know, I've heard the horror stories about their owners where they promise everything, give nothing. And then there's other owners where they pay a shit ton of money out of their own pocket to make that team run. I personally wasn't one of those owners because I had 3 others. So I wasn't, quote unquote, the money out of, you know, I was one of the owners more so to be, as you guys know, I was more of the player owner. You know, like I played with you guys. I was there to kind of make the team successful. So I was being more used as, let's get this team to work and gel and be part of, you know, a unison to have one goal, where the other owners were more of the backdrop stuff,
right.
You know, where I was kept in the dark on a lot of stuff too, as you know. But as far as like that comment, like, no, I don't think players should be lucky that I don't think players should be lucky that the owners exist or the teams exist, because at the end of the day, what's the opposing aspect of that? That we're just not going to play football. We're going to play backyard football with our friends if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, or you're going to travel a certain amount of distance to play for a team that does exist. If you're that, you know, if you're that wanting to play football, you know, at least with the helmet and the pads. I mean, how many guys in this league and other leagues all play flag football?
A lot. And that's kind of where I was trying to get to. And, you know, this is why I respect you so much, because you didn't need any priming for that, right? Like I didn't need to say any keywords or anything to you to get you to find that realization on your own. And we're talking to a guy who has played at the high levels, he's done it all, as far as, the dreams that all of us have in the minor leagues, went to a D1 school, bounced back like most of us do, played arena, played for a really competitive, like top tier, minor league program, went to, the NFL and tried his hand at that, you know, and then you came back and you played again and then you started a team. You know what I'm saying? That's like everybody's like
Yeah.
path, what I'm saying, that's playing at this level.
And I had a 12-year exodus.
And then at the end of it, you came to the realization that the power is really in the player's hand. We could just stop playing in this league. We could just stop playing for this team. We can travel. If I really want to play football that bad, I'm just going to travel. And you know what? If playing in pads gets that bad, I'm either going to really take playing in one of these arena teams or playing overseas serious, or I'm just going to go play flag. Or you know what? I'm just going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if I get so frustrated that this stops being fun, I'm not going to keep doing it.
Yeah, because listen, man, you could still edit yourself in Madden and have just as fun playing in the NFL.
With half the work and half the injuries and
You know what I
none of
mean?
the injuries, none of the work, none of the practices. You're right.
You get
All right,
a
so check this out. I reached out to a bunch of different owners over the last couple of days, and I asked them all a bunch of questions. Most owners agree on a few things, right? I really just asked them financially, what does it take? And most of the owners, no matter how good the program was, no matter how poor the result was at the end of the year, no matter if they were a brand new team or they were a team that had multiple national championships spanning back 30 years, they all agreed that to run a team the right way, it takes just about on average $25,000, somewhere closer to 30,000 to run a program the right way, right?
Per season?
Per season. I currently am signed to a team in the summer that I know that budget is almost double that, right? And I can
Yeah.
see where it's almost double that because
Shout out to that team too, by the way.
I have a practice jersey, I have practice gear, and I've practiced double as much as any other team, and I've done it all in an indoor facility. So I can understand where that budget comes from, right? I haven't practiced outside yet for that season. But if you talk about making a reality out of this whole thing, teams being insolvent is a problem. Because when you think about it, if a team has a 65-man roster and all 65 pay their $300 dues, that's $19,500 alone, right? Now, one of the problems is that there's too many teams, so not many rosters have 65 on it. That's one problem. The other problem is what I'm hearing is a lot of owners agree that out of that 65, only about 50 of them are going to pay their dues, and only about 20 of them are going to pay them on time.
shit.
So,
I mean, not to cut you off, but like I told you, we lost about $6,000 last year.
that's tough.
And that a lot of that was due to non-payment of dues.
Right off the bat. I mean, a lot of the teams agreed. The numbers fluctuated, but a lot of the teams agreed anywhere between 6,000 and 9,000 for quality jerseys.
Mhm.
You know, 6,000 to 9,000 alone is a lot of money, and all we talking about is jerseys. We haven't talked about a field yet. Most of the teams agreed that fields will cost them somewhere close to anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000, depending on the field that you're playing at. And we haven't even gotten to the ref fees that you got to pay every week. And there's a lot of costs that go into this.
You have medic fees.
You got medics, you got photography. Everybody wants to have their film, but film costs money, especially quality film.
And then if you want a PA,
If you want a PA, if you want the scoreboard on, if you want to play at night, there's travel expenses if you going on these long road games or if you playing in these leagues that have a large footprint, you're gonna have to travel. You know what I'm saying? And if you think that paying that $100 for a bus is cheaper than driving, go look at the gas prices. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna pay about the same amount. So um when I was doing this, I was thinking like, what if we could get 100 fans at a game, and in a 12-game season, you know what I'm saying? That's including preseason, maybe playoffs for certain teams. You get 100 fans, and the average price of a ticket was $10. You know what I'm saying? Which here's the thing: I was at the Central Connecticut game with you, Mike,
Yep.
because we're both coaching for Wildcats, and I found out that Central Connecticut State, Division One AA program, right? $15 to get in.
Yeah.
The same price of a semi-pro game. So they had about maybe like 300 people at that spring game, you know, and maybe they average about 100. I remember for the Wildcats, we played WestCon. WestCon, JV had about 400 people in the stands. You know what I'm saying? They had people all over the place. So I don't think it's too hard to get 100 people in the crowd, and that's $6,000 of income right there. You know what I'm saying? And if only 10 fans, if only 10% buy concessions, you make $600. You know what I'm saying, on the course of a 6-game season, and right there you made $23,000. You know what I'm saying? So if you can cut some costs in some places and guys can pay their dues, we can stop teams from being insolvent. But that takes business acumen. You gotta have rules in place. And we talked about this prior to the show. What if the NFL or the ML, you know, the minor league players association, what if you paid your dues to the association and you paid your team dues? What if the team dues were standardized at $300, right? And the dues for the association was paid, and then the team dues was paid through the association. If you don't pay the dues through the association, you can't play. This is just spitballing. But what if the association paid the team dues? That gets rid of all of this. It gets rid of all these problems. And
It does.
if you
It
miss
would
the,
eliminate. I'm sorry, go ahead. My bad.
no, if you miss the deadline for the Players Association dues, you could work it out with a team. The Players Association is not stopping you, but you're gonna work it out with that team, and that team is gonna have to register you with the Players Association. You know what I'm saying? The Players Association will register you to the team, and if the team wants to take it into their own hands, they can do so and register you to the team. That will get rid of this whole problem that we're talking about dues and things like that. Because when a player is going to a team and they just feel like, you know, the team just needs me, I could pay these dues whenever, you know what I'm saying? And then you got a coach saying, just pay the dues later. I need you at practice. You know what I'm saying? Pay the dues later. You need a helmet first. Pay the Players Association.
That goes back to what I said about authority figures in these organizations sweeping the things that need to be policed under the rug.
Exactly. And the association is removed from the team. So there's no, there's no feelings about it. If your player doesn't have equipment, that's too damn bad, but your dues are paid. You need to
just have to watch out for mischievous owners. Honestly.
Right. Now we have a link where you can buy shoulder pads for $50 and they're brand new, top of the line shoulder pads, but your dues are paid. You know what I'm saying? So now the system is running fluidly. What do you guys think about the ability of the PA being able to kind of take away this whole, like, the owners feel like I'm lucky to be here, and then that trickling down to owners going insolvent because they're trying so much harder to build a team than they are to run a business? How do y'all feel about that?
I'm just waiting for Ramsey to finish drinking.
Sorry. Honestly, it's tough for me to truly say how I feel about that, because at the end of the day, it really comes down to the owner's perspective on the situation. I don't feel like any owner should be like, oh, I'm lucky that this guy's here. They should be like, the players chose me to be here, or, with, as a collective with the group of friends that go to a team. When it comes to, like you said earlier, players do hold all the power. And if it wasn't for the players, there would be no organization. If we were to all as a collective say, you know what, fuck this guy, we're not playing here, then, he's going to have to deal with what's left. And is that enough left to deal with the team or fill the team? So it's a very sticky situation, for lack of a better term. But I don't know. It's I don't know. I feel like I would have to step out of myself and really look at it as I'm that, not that guy kind of thing, but this shit isn't running without me. And I feel like that's kind of tough for me to tap into right now.
I think it comes down to, like, if I was just the owner by myself, and and I think you guys would both agree, if I was just the owner of the team that we were all on last year at some point, it would have ran a lot smoother. Money-wise, I would have needed a lot more help because it was financially it was tough, but it wasn't impossible to get money through. Now, granted, where we were in Southington is a football town, so it was a lot easier to get sponsorships here and there. Once the ball started to roll, in the beginning it was tough as hell. No one cared about us, nothing. But once I started doing media and all that stuff, it got a lot easier for us to get some cash. That's why, with even taking the loss of not getting the players' dues, we were still able to go buy jerseys. We were still able to do a lot of stuff. So I think it comes down to what the owner wants to do. Like no owner wants to spend out of pocket. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
clear. I mean, some owners will, but they don't like it. You know what I mean? And let's be real, some owners out there have the money to do that. Some owners can do that. Not all owners can do that. So it really to me comes down to what the owner himself or herself is going to want to do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think the Players Association would take on a lot of responsibilities, and it would be a massive hand and pot organization, because that would be one of the roles, right? One of the roles would be working with the teams as well to solidify sponsorship. And again, commercializing the athlete is the engine for commercializing the team. You know what I'm saying? If you commercialize some of the better athletes, and the first person that comes to mind, sorry, Mike, is Dave Legree. You know what I'm saying? Or Gerald G. Block. These guys are easy to commercialize. You know what I'm saying? The success that they've had for so long. They've got the smile. They know how to talk. They've been in front of the cameras for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Everybody loves them. Once you commercialize one or two and it becomes a market, it becomes a market. You know what I'm saying? And then it's easier to commercialize others, but then it's easy to commercialize their teams. Once you commercialize G Block and you brand him, it becomes very easy to commercialize the Knowles itself. And it becomes very easy for their best defensive player to become commercialized. Like Divine. Divine is a freaking dog at corner. It'd be so easy to market that dude. You know what I'm saying? But I think that would be a big role of the Players Association, is to first focus on the players, but then the players' success also comes from the team success. I understanding that ecosystem, building it up as a full system that works together. Because once you build up team brands, and everybody's going to want to know what league they play in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to
agree.
want to the league. And once you get this influx, this is where the big $50,000 sponsorships comes from. You know what I'm saying? This is where the $500,000 sponsorships come from. When you have a league who then goes and gets a media deal with MSG, and MSG in New York is a very small, not too well known, but if you're from New York, you know it, and you've seen a lot of football there. And then you can get a Fox Sports, a FSN3 TV deal. But if
or your local news channel, just get shout out for 3 minutes.
It's now it's $500,000 to play my commercial during your game. You know what I'm saying? Now it's $500 to put my brand or put my logo on your banner. You know what I'm saying? And then that money flows down. But it starts at building something very small. Right now, what we're talking about is seeds in the dirt.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the trees. Everybody's focused on the big, 100-foot tall oak tree. Right now, we're talking about the seed in the dirt.
All it's gonna take one owner to make that leap. That's it. One owner to make that leap, and then the other will see that it's working. And that's really what it will take, or just one commissioner. You know what I mean? And I don't know if there's going to be a commissioner out there that's going to want to take that leap, but
David Patterson will take that leap. He already did. I mean, if you look at,
well, I was reading some of his comments. He said he did it a little while ago.
If you look at what Dave Patterson did with the IFA, though, he broke away from the system. He defected. He put together a league and he said, I want all the teams that are struggling, and I'll help you. I'll help you keep your team alive. I'll help you get jerseys. I'll help you look uniform. I'll help you videotape your games, and I'll travel to you if you can't travel. And if you have a tough time traveling, we'll fix the schedule to help you out. Like Dave Patterson already started to do that. Sean Slip, with the Den, he did it as well. He kind of defected. He didn't really defect so much as he said, you know what, I'm gonna put something together the right way, and I'm gonna have morals and standards, and I'm not gonna budge on it. And I'm gonna make sure that everything runs to the standard that I set. There's gonna be stats, there's gonna be tape. You know what? Everybody has a problem opening day. We all playing on the same field. And I'm gonna pay for the videographer to be there from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. the next day. You know what I'm saying? We have it happening in small pieces, but what's happening is it's not unified.
The problem is that, and this is not, as well as the guy that you've been arguing with the whole last couple of days, Vince McMahon of football, who's taken every fucking team there is. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but you kind of need him to like jump aboard, but he's not gonna. He's kind of making it proof that we would have to prove undoubtedly that this is going to work for him to even fathom it. You know what I mean? Or you would have to have every player in the ECFL jump on board to where they have to do it.
That's what we would have to do.
Because Vince McMahon ain't going to do it.
We would have to have every player.
That's a new nickname for him is Vince McMahon.
We would have to have the vast majority of players, and it would have to come from the most successful teams. So the Shams, the Admirals, the Bandits, the Mustangs, the Panthers, those are the teams that
It'd have to be the
90% of their roster, at least minimum, would have to agree and sign and be willing to not play football unless he made the correct changes in order to make the system better for everyone. And even so, the ECFL is one of those products that is built in such a well-mannered way that that's a 3A league, that's a paid league. That is the closest thing you're going to get to the NFL and semi-pro football right now. You got
and listen, I'm not shitting on Jim. Jim's doing a fucking hell of a job. Like he's doing his thing. He's killing it. So before he starts commenting on anything that I just said, I'm actually giving him props on that aspect. Jim, we know you don't own the league.
You don't own it, but you fucking run it. All right, God damn it.
That man,
you run it.
You are the face of the league, no matter which way you want to swing it.
Definitely.
You are Goodell.
All right, so that's a lot. I mean, we're 40 minutes over, guys. I'm sorry. Thank everyone for tuning in. We're just gonna have a quick 10-minute conversation about he said Dana White. Shut up, Jim. We're gonna have a quick 10-minute conversation about two of the big games coming up this weekend. We just want to have a quick touch on it because there's some great football about to come your way. I'm very upset that Ramsey dropped off. Really wanted him here for this conversation because it's me and Mike on the Connecticut Falcons playing Ramsey on his New York Patriots. But we just gonna have a quick 10-minute conversation about that game and the Knowles game. And we're probably gonna talk about the Bengals Crusaders game that just passed and maybe see if we can get some comments on the TFL. But listen, this conversation about a players association is not over. I'm going to try to have this show on every week, at least until the end of the ECFL season, which doesn't end until October. So you guys can tune in. I'm probably gonna have to take some weeks off. Mike is gonna need to take some weeks off, and so is Ramsey. Everybody's gonna need time for their family. So I will announce when we don't do the show, but for the main part, we'll try to do this every week, and probably every other show we'll talk about the Players Association. We'll pick up the conversation where we left off. There was a lot of questions, some things that I didn't get to. The honest truth is, I started doing a lot of research, and I went into the collective bargain agreement, not just of the NFL, but for the NBA, for the MLB, and there is 70 plus articles in that thing. And each article breaks down to subsection after subsection after subsection, making clear of everything. So we could honestly talk about this stuff for hours, and me and Mike do all the time, which is why I invited him on the show because it's great conversations. But at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out a solution because I am very afraid that we're going to lose this level of the sport, and I'm also afraid of the direction it's going. I don't want to see anybody getting hurt at a football game. I bring my son. My son is 3 years old. Mike brings his son, who's 11 years old, to the game. And, some stuff happened the other day, and it scared the life out of Mike because his son was walking towards danger and didn't realize it. And that was at a facility where there was security and it was under control. So when it gets out of control, it's terrible for the sport. Nobody wants it.
That's the second time he's done it. I mean, remember last year when we got in our the little thing with the Flyers?
Right.
He was in the middle of that.
To that too. So, we're trying to figure out a way to get rid of the bad stuff because as players, we put all our money, all our time, all our energy into this. We love this sport, and we're just trying to do what we can to make it that much better. And how freaking cool would it be to see some everyday guys on TV playing football at a high level? It'd be freaking cool. Like, if we could make this a reality, it'd be awesome, and it'd be better for everybody. So that's kind of the point. But thank y'all for the show. Now we're just gonna have a quick little conversation. So, Mike, you're new to the Falcons.
I'm sorry. I just saw who the Giants picked up. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's no problem. Listen, you're new to the Falcons. I was on the Falcons. It's my third year on the Falcons after moving to Connecticut. We joined the IFA last year. It was a big deal. The IFA had a nice little system where you had the North versus the South, and we played the Patriots during the regular season in the Bronx, and then we played them at home in the semifinals and the playoffs. We beat them both times. The first time we beat them, I think it was by 1 point. And the second time we beat them, it was by 3 points. Now, I will say in the second game, I was beat up bad. That was right after we went to Syracuse and we played the Ithaca Warriors. And I had tore the ligament in my foot. So I was like hurting bad. 2 points. Sorry, Dave. I was hurting bad. I was beat up. My shoulder was still messed up, but I felt good enough to play. And I was just in rhythm. So coach trusted me. He knew I would find the hole. We pulled out some new stuff nobody's seen. And we really did control that game from start to finish. We let off a little bit, but they were balling and they were coming back in that game. I think this year is going to be a lot different. The Patriots have been up and down this year, but I honestly think that we're going to see the best version of them. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's going to be a better version than we've ever seen. And if you look at the scores, they've been so tight that we also have to play better. So I said it was a 2-touchdown victory for the Falcons because I think I know how much we truly have. I don't think anybody really understands how much we truly have. But the Patriots, I went to their game and they got talent, man. So that's kind of like the catch up. That's like the rundown.
Yeah.
What do you think? How do you feel as a new player? I know you've heard about, the rivalry and things like that. Just kind of talk about it. And the other thing is we were supposed to play them at home. And then we were supposed to play them at their house. Now we're just playing them at home. So you get to go down to SUNY Maritime and play on the water and see Manhattan in the background. How you feel about all
that? I think I played there before, years ago.
Wow. So that's dope.
If it's new, then no, I haven't. But
no, it's not new. It's been there.
All right. So yeah, I think I played it before. It's right on the water, like right on the Hudson.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I played there before. I liked it there. I played there with the Connecticut Giants. So
nice.
I think
it's a beautiful facility. Thank you so much, Dave, for doing that because we need more of that in this level.
So I don't know. I just want to play, man. Like I like 2 weeks off. It sucked. Like, and then I know we're playing them, and I know it's kind of the same situation that we had when I first came in and we played the Warhawks. The team that, me coming in and everybody was really like, we have to beat them. We have to beat them. And it's the same way now with the Patriots. It adds a little bit more flavor to it because I know Ramsey.
Right.
That does help. And now this will be my first time going against Ramsey. Granted, I'm not going to be on the other side of the ball. I'm going to be on the offensive line. But, I'm excited for it. I mean, I'm thinking we still pull out the victory, of course, because we're doing really good right now. And but I'm hoping we have a game. You know, I'm hoping. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. I hope the Patriots do come and do bring it because I'd like to get on the field and play more than 4 freaking plays without the score already being out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, you
I'm
got
sure. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not saying the Patriots suck. I'm not saying that. I'm sure it's going to be a good game. I'm sure it's going to be a tight game for a little while. Maybe we pull away at the end or whatever the case may be. But they're at home, so I mean they're probably going to have all their players, from what I understand.
yeah, you got the number 5 team going up against the number 9 team. Just brought up the ranking, so there's a lot to this. There's only 3 teams left in the IFA after just the debacle. It was just a lot of egos and all kinds of things, and there was a referee situation that caused the league to kind of fall apart in the North. So we got left with just the South teams, um, and even one of the South teams just didn't show up to play. So there's only 3 teams left, which sucks. But the 3 teams that are left are really good organizations. The Crusaders just they can't find a way to win. I said it before. Great organization. They're one offensive line and one quarterback away from being one of the best teams around. They got a solid defense. They got a really good offense. But if the offense can't stay on the field, the defense can't stop the other team for too long. But there's a lot of tension here because this is also a preview of the IFA championship game.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the Crusaders not having a win, it's obviously going to come down to the Patriots and the Falcons, unless the Crusaders shock the world with a winless record and beat one of the better organizations in the Northeast in the playoffs, which I very much doubt.
Who would they play?
It depends on who wins this game. If the Falcons lose, then they got to play the Crusaders first round. If the Patriots, if they lose, then the Patriots will play them first round. The Crusaders did beat us. David Patterson is telling truth. We beat them 40 something zip at home, and then we went down to Brooklyn. And the honest truth is, nobody took it serious. A lot of guys didn't show up. We went down to Brooklyn, and they came to play, and we got shot.
Oh, that was last year?
Yeah, that was the one where Divine threw a bomb off his back foot last second. The ball hit Quan in the chest, and I don't know if he was blinded or what, but he didn't come down with it. There was a lot that happened in that game, but they're not the kind of team that you could sleep on. You got to take the Crusaders serious. They might be winless, but if you don't come to play, they will shock you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was kind of the point of me doing this power ranking system because a lot of these semi-pro guys, they like to just downgrade teams and just make it seem like, I don't know. I grew up in an era where it was every inch meant something, and it was any given Sunday. Like, don't take nobody because anybody will take your shine.
And that's the thing. I've been playing football for so long. I mean, you played me now for 2 years now. I don't. I do my film study. I watch the games, and the problem with semi-pro football though is, one day I'm watching game film, and you're like, yeah, that guy no longer plays on that team. So then I'm over here learning that he's not on the team anymore, and I'm like, oh, good, all right, cool. So it's difficult in that manner, but if they're running the same scheme, the same defensive front, and all that stuff, then it's a little bit easier to go through. But I'm hoping for a battle. I'm hoping whoever lines up across from me is ready, to go at it because I've had 2 weeks now off, and just I want to hit somebody. So there's that.
Had 2 dogs on the defensive line.
I'm sure they do.
Correct me. I can't remember his name. The Spanish guy. He coaches for Cardinal Hayes, and he wears number 58 on the D line. He's a dog. And then they got Molly as well, who's also a Dolphin. I think he's triple duty. He might just be double duty. He's also a New York Dolphin, but Molly is an absolute dog. He's been around the TFL for a long time. I know dude by face. That's how much I played against him or seen him.
I'm ready to have a good battle.
Yeah, they got some good guys. They got Xavier Carp, who is an absolute dog at linebacker. I don't know if Keese is gonna play corner and quarterback, but if Keese plays corner, I mean he's a AAA level corner. He's a dog. He's a dude.
As you know, this year so far, my battles have mostly been with the linebackers anyway.
True. Well, they got a linebacker I've never seen before, but everybody's saying that he's a freaking dog. He's a beast. I think maybe I got there a little too late to really see him in action, or maybe he was taking it a little easy. But he played at Fordham, and he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's smart, he knows football. So we're gonna talk about this, Mike, offline. But I'm gonna need you to go ahead and climb to the next level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, hey,
It's gonna be a great game because Patriots, they got Coach Black, who is a great coach. He also is a commissioner of the TFL. I believe he owns the TFL as well. And he's a legendary coach in himself. They definitely upped the program a lot, and it shows. They 3-1. You know, um, they only lost to the Ducks, who a lot of the Ducks faithful was really mad at me for moving the Ducks down. And I'm gonna make it simple for you. Anybody who doesn't understand how rankings work, momentum is a thing. You know what I'm saying? So if you lose and the team that you beat was right behind you, even though you beat them, sometimes they get ahead of you because you lost. It might just be for the week. You might go back up when you get a win, but momentum is a thing. Like, guys, I put a lot of work into this ranking system. Jeez. Well, anyway, we were talking about, score predictions. I said 28-14 for the Falcons. And that's honestly, that's pretty close. Like, people think that 2 touchdown lead is like a big deal. It's really not. Like, when you talk about the explosiveness of the Patriots and the explosiveness of the Falcons, that's really not a big score. Like, I believe that both defenses will play pretty good and they will slow the tempo of both offenses. I think the Patriots really suffer right now with the offensive line position. I know they're going to bring in some big name guys, but even the guys that they're bringing in are a little on the older side.
hey,
We got a really young defense.
nothing wrong with being a little older.
That's true, but when you look at our defense, when you look at guys like Willow, like Angelo, you look at Maz, like our defense is young and fast and athletic, and we practice. We go over skills. And our D line of all the places is the ones that are usually at practice. I didn't even talk about Oso, who's a veteran. Like, we got a really good defensive line. So if you're struggling at O line, you're gonna
If
have
I,
a problem with us.
I swapped over,
Yep,
because then no one's ever seen me play defense. So there's that.
I have.
Yeah, no, you have, but
So if it gets crazy,
no,
but we
I'm
got guys like Mel coming off the bench. Mel is playing on Team USA right now. He's
no.
coming off the bench. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're loaded.
And don't get me wrong, I'm actually very comfortable now at my position where I'm at. Being that I am 41 years old, D line I love it. I miss it. I would love to play it again before I finally hang it up. But with the shoulders and all that stuff, it's easier to go guard or center.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great game, man. SUNY Maritime, 2 p.m. on Sunday.
Oh,
It is supposed to rain. It's like an 80% chance of rain.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, more than half our games have been in the rain.
Facts. That's true.
We've only had one game not in the rain.
This is the first year since so we had 2 years of really good weather where I think we played in one rain game in 2 years. And then this year we played in like 3 games.
Rain.
I hate it. Oh, I hate it. But 80% chance of rain at 2, 100% chance at 4. So it's definitely going to rain during the game.
I mean, as for all the big men out there, they all know it. Be it any climatic weather is fucking great for us.
It's going to be a hard hitting game. I tell you that much, because the Patriots load that box up, boy.
And I know it sucks for me as the visor.
They love the blitz. So that's going to be a great one. I wish Ramsey was here, because Ramsey's score, I think it was 24-23.
Yeah, I think he said they were going to beat us by 1.
Or it was either 24-23 or 27-26. I know it wasn't an even score.
No, he definitely said he was beating us by 1.
Yeah, so Ramsey thinks they can pull it through. I'll be honest, Ramsey is an absolute dog at running back.
Oh.
He feels my baby in the background. And
No,
then they got some talent. They got some Gators. I keep forgetting number 5's name, but he's a Gator. He's a dog. Number 12 is a receiver. I watch him on TikTok. He works out like an animal. Like, he's an absolute animal. I think Cologne is out there too, playing receiver. I mean, they got a lot of dogs, man. So a lot of talent on that team. This is gonna be a hell of a game, and people don't really respect the Patriots organization. I know they lost to the Ducks, but the Ducks is on a great run right now. They really are. Really, really powerful team in the TFL right now. Like, at the top of the TFL, I would say the top of the TFL, the top three teams, the Ducks, the Green Wave, and the Eagles could play in a den. I'm not saying that they would have success, but they can play and they would compete. You know what I'm saying? So that's the right now, that's the benchmark.
Mhm.
So for the Patriots to lose by 3 points to the Ducks, like they right there on that level. You know what I'm saying? They belong in the top 10 of teams right now. So this is a collision course. All right, the last game that we're gonna talk about before we get out of here is the Knowles playing a unit. And I found this nice little graphic of the Knowles. They won 4 straight chips. Um,
Yeah.
and league, I think out of those 4 chips, they got 2 national championships. And that was up to 2020. I think they also went back in 2021 and lost to the Shamrocks. And I think that was a really close game. They also lost to the Texas Red Raiders, I think. And from what I'm hearing, they didn't have the roster. They didn't have the actual roster. So uh, either way, they were going to national championships, and they've been to a bunch of them, and they have won every league championship that they played in for I don't know how long. And they're going up against a unit who just a year ago was killing the NEAFL. It was in the top 10 in the country in the Sunshine Bowl. And it's a collision course because the unit right now, they're struggling. They need to win.
Mhm.
Uh, if you look, the unit is 2-2. I still got them pretty high at number 12 because I do understand that although they went 0-2 to start the season, they were on a 2-game win streak, and that roster is nasty. Like they got some top tier talent on that team. These are guys that really can play at the next level. A lot of them. They're struggling with quarterback right now. I think there's a different running back. The running back they had last year was a dog. I think they changed up at the running back position. It's not a bad thing. It's just a change up, and the offense isn't quite meshing. But the
Mhm.
Seminoles is 3-0 already. They beat the Central Penn Hitmen, which was supposed to be the number 2 team. And the only reason they're not is because they lost to the Knowles. Because honestly, if you take the Knowles off their schedule, they're undefeated right now. You know, um, I mean, it's just a great game. And the big thing is the Knowles had a no contest game against the Tide, the Delaware Tide, where I think it was a similar situation. And Delaware, the referees didn't show up for whatever reason. Both teams tried to fix it, but it couldn't get done. Um, so they just kind of missed the game, and that's how they got bumped down because the Garden State Herd is on a roll.
Mhm.
But listen, if the unit loses this game and they go 2-3, that's tough. That's tough for them because all it takes is for the Delaware Tide to win a game, um, the Owls to win a game. I forgot who the Owls is playing this week. The Owls are playing
I think we went over it.
the Wolfpack. They're playing the Wilmington Wolfpack. That's a game that they can win. So the Owls win, they're atop of them. The Jackals win, they're atop of them. And the unit fall pretty far down. But when you think about trying to make the playoffs and positioning, the unit are falling into territory where they're going to be on the road and they're going to have to play one of the better teams. Like they're going to have to play the Owls or the Hitmen or potentially the Knowles or the Herd first round in the playoffs. To go from national championship contention a year ago to probably not making it out the first round of the playoffs this year is a tough fall from grace. And if you know anything about the unit and you go to Facebook and you look up the unit, they have probably one of the higher budgets. They're one of the better ran teams. They have a lot of support. They have a really good fan base. So it's going to be tough. Um, it's going to be tough if they lose this game.
That's football for you, though.
Yeah.
You know.
The role reversal is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, hey, any given.
So there's a lot of Seminoles that double duty. There's a lot of Seminoles that play in the TFL on different teams. There's a
Mhm.
lot of Seminoles that play in the IFA. Um, there's a lot of Seminoles that play in places that I don't even know about. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see if the Seminoles take this game seriously, because I feel like the unit is going to give it everything they got. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things about being the top team, the top dog. Every time somebody sees you, they're going to really come at you and try to make a name for themselves. But the unit is one of those teams that I think really could shock the Seminoles because they truly have the talent to play with them. And if the Noles take them too lightly, you never know. So
No, you're not wrong.
we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. There's a lot of good games this week coming up in the Den. I know in the TFL, there's a lot of good games. The TFL IFA merger is still going on. So the Mount Vernon Bangers play the Crusaders. I said it's going to be a blowout. The Bangers got a great team. They got a great roster. So I can't see them not, really putting up points. So unfortunately, I think for the IFA, we got to just bite this bullet this year. Maybe we come back stronger next year. Maybe Patterson can convince some of these top tier teams to come join our league. It'd be fun.
I mean, that's in talks.
I don't know. Somebody said to me that the IFA was going to fold, and I said, "Do you not understand that the Patriots are the IFA?" I said, "So long as the Patriots exist, the IFA will exist. So it'll rebuild itself."
Hey, tell them, just be like Notre Dame, man. Pick your shots.
That's all. But all right, man, it was great talking to you. I'm gonna go get some dinner. Everybody, thank you again for coming out. Next week, what I want to do is Tuesday. I'm probably gonna do an interview. So I'm not really gonna expect too many people to pop out on that. It's gonna be midweek. If it's not Tuesday, it'll be probably Wednesday.
No,
Before practice.
they should all be there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to do an interview. It's likely gonna be David Patterson. Want to have a good conversation with him, but I'm gonna try to do like every other week, bi-weekly. I'm gonna start doing interviews with different players and league owners and things like that. Quick 30-minute interview, ask them a bunch of questions, get their take on things. Gonna be some really interesting people, and then we'll resume the regular show on Friday. I think we're gonna push it back to 8 o'clock from 7 o'clock so that Ramsey can get out of the gym and stuff. Maybe we even push it back to like 8:30 to really give him some time. I don't want to take up anybody's Friday night, so we try to do it as early as possible. But guys, please let me know what y'all think the best time is for the show for everybody to come out and watch and kind of interact with us because we watch the comments. We love the comments. We're paying attention. So we definitely want you guys interacting with us. And next week, we're going to talk about some pretty interesting topics. And I'm not going to really spoil it too much, but I'm going to dive into some of the things that I think could make the game fun, just way more fun and what could be some of the pain points for us and who are some of the teams that are already doing some of these things, you know what I'm saying? So we'll talk about some of those things next week and it's going to be a good one. So appreciate everybody for coming out tonight. And as always, see y'all at the 50.
Take care.
Take care.